Bless you. God bless your family. Thank you guys so much for being here. As you can see, I got a stack of papers here. This has to be about 20, 30 papers, more than I've ever had. I came prepared today. About 20 articles, stuff from Pfizer's head of research department, etc. All sorts of mainstream stuff, NIH, CDC. I got literally all of it because I have an argument to make for myself and hundreds of millions of people. So that's what we're going to talk about today. I mean, I got a lot, like I said, folks. So I hope you guys stay around. But first thing we're going to talk about is the FDA approval of the Pfizer vaccine. So there's a lot of misinformation, and I'm not trying to act like I'm the police of information like Facebook, like fact check. But truth be told, you don't have to agree with it, but they did approve it for people 16 years or older, and the emergency use authorization is there now for a third dose and 12 through 15 years of age. A lot of people are trying to say, well, it's not technically FDA approved because it's, I think they misread what it is, because it is FDA approved for 16 and up. And for 12 to 15, they're now extending, I think, the emergency use authorization. So look into that. Like I said, I'm not trying to be the police of this, but I see a lot of accounts I follow, weighing in on it. But once again, there's a lot of fine print. I didn't go through like the dozens of stuff. So maybe someone picked up on something I didn't. That was just my first thought. So we're going to talk about it. Second thing I want to talk about, I hope you guys stay till the end. I've decided that I'm going to vote for Larry Elder. And I know I gave him a hard time on masks and the passports. And he responded very quickly. I don't know directly to me, but to everybody who is concerned. And I saw something that really, really impressed me and that really decided my vote. So I'm going to tell you why I'm doing that afterwards. And if you guys stick to the very end, I have this shirt, God Save America. It's from Kanye's camp. And I have a cool story about that. I love this shirt and even my hats. It's not just that, but when it says God, it's just cool because people will come up to you and just be like, hey, whether I'm wearing my hat or this shirt that's from Kanye's camp, it's like, I had a great conversation just off wearing that shirt. So I love a good message on a shirt because it like attracts people. I had a great day so far, but we're going to start it off with the FDA approval because it's a huge story. And here's my stance to make it short before I get into all my research. I have it here. I think there's tens of thousands or over 20,000 FDA drugs approved. Actually, let me look at it because I got all this information here. I might as well just read it right off the source. There's a lot of drugs that are approved by the FDA. Let me see the exact number. Of course, it's like near the bottom, but over 20,000 prescription products approved by the FDA. That's awesome. Doesn't mean I have to take them all. Doesn't mean I want them all. We're going to get into the foods that the FDA approves that a lot of other countries, including many in Europe or all in Europe, do not approve. So, it's all love. I think this may sway certain people's decision, and rightfully so. But I personally don't think this gives the Biden administration or Canada or corporations the, authority to mandate this on people. That's just my stance. I take care of my body. I choose what food and drugs go into it. There's never been anything like this. So I'm proud of the FDA. I'm proud of the Pfizer and Moderna. I'm sure their stocks are through the roof today. But, I have an argument that why I feel the way I feel, and hopefully to the Facebook censors and YouTube censors before I stall a little more and start, this is not coming from a conspiracy theory. This is not coming from the sky. I have dozens of your own articles, etc., to explain my argument. So I just want to go through. I know YouTube, you can see it, but I'm just going to read everything aloud because I got all this stuff here. I'm just going to go through all the flip-flops that I've been watching over the course of the last year. It's really been happening for 2 years, but the science keeps evolving, and things that they said before are all of a sudden not part of the equation anymore. So this is, if you guys can see it, it's backwards for you guys, but National Institute of Health, okay? That's our government agency, the National Institute of Health. This was them just January 26, 2021. They said research matters, lasting immunity found after recovery from COVID-19. Now, there's a discussion to be had there between scientists, between experts, which immunity is better, this one or this one. But, just a few months ago, the NIH was saying our research matters and there is long-lasting immunity found from recovery of COVID-19. Thomas Massey, many people point this out, Rand Paul, they're trying to figure out like, okay, if this is all about science and you want people to be protected and you don't want people to spread it, are we allowed to have a discussion, debate, conversation around natural immunity, or are we just going to pretend like this NIH article saying that it was real and it lasted long? Do we just rip that up and that's out the window now? Because I understand the science changes, but I've gotten flagged multiple times for literally posting CDC data because they don't even believe themselves what they said 4 months ago, and it's getting ridiculous. And if you think I'm being sarcastic, like I said, I have the printouts. This is Fortune from April 1st, not that long ago, April 1st, 2021. Maybe this was an April Fool's joke, but I doubt it. They said it's official. Vaccinated people don't transmit COVID-19. CDC Director Rochelle Walensky said this week that vaccinated people do not carry the virus. So as of April, the CDC director, literally the person who oversees the Center of Disease Control, said, if you're vaccinated, you don't carry the virus. Okay, that's April. This is now. This is just if you Google. This is like the mainstream data that pops up. CNN article. It says common questions. Can you spread COVID-19 if you are vaccinated? CNN says fully vaccinated people who get COVID-19 breakthrough infection can transmit the virus, says U.S. Center for Disease Control Prevention Director Rochelle Walensky on Thursday. So within just a few months, Rochelle Walensky went from saying you can't spread the virus if you get it, and you can't really get it, we don't think so, to you actually can. So that's the flip-flop just in the last 3 months from them. Okay, fair enough. I get it. Science is not settled. The science evolves. We learn more as we go on. Well, what about herd immunity? Because I have this is I think BBC up top, and this is CNBC. All mainstream stuff, folks. I'm not making up conspiracy theories. I'm not deep diving on 4chan or 8chan. It's not what I do. This is all stuff that the experts and the trusted news sources said just a few months ago, and they don't seem to agree with themselves on anything. So I'm just going to go through it all before I get to my argument about the FDA approval. This is a BBC. They said COVID. Israel may be reaching herd immunity. This was April 14th, 2021. The Israel data started looking good, and they were thinking, oh, because of the vaccines, maybe Israel is reaching herd immunity. This is CNBC, August 12th, just a few days ago. Here's why herd immunity from COVID is mythical with the Delta variant. So within a few months, they said, I think Israel's reaching herd immunity to herd immunity is literally not even possible because of the Delta variant. We think it's mythical, which means not real. So that's the science changing in 3 or 4 months. Have they never heard of a coronavirus with a mutation or some sort of variant? Maybe this was brand new and blew their minds, but I think a lot of us saw something like this coming. Maybe they didn't, but it's just interesting how the experts can go from we think we're reaching herd immunity to it's not even possible, as if this is the only thing that's ever had a mutation or a variant. They can maybe trick the population into thinking that this is brand new, but I've read articles in scientific journals for the last decade, Scientific American, etc., talking about mutations, variants of all sorts of stuff. So I don't think this is new science, but they can pretend like it is, and you can defer to them on that. Okay, so this is Reuters and CNBC. These are mainstream news sources, right? This is from Wednesday, February 2021. Reuters says Israeli study finds that the Pfizer vaccine is 95% effective against COVID-19. Just a few months later in July 23rd, 2021, CNBC reports Israel says Pfizer COVID vaccine is just 39% effective as Delta spreads, but still prevents severe illness. So just in a few months, the experts out of Israel and the government there taking the data decided it went from 95% effective to 39% effective. But that's okay because it still protects you against severe disease. I understand what they're saying, but that's not what she said originally, which is fine in my opinion. Everything changes, everything evolves. Sorry, I got to take a sip of water, but there's a trend that's going on before I continue. If I were to be right before they were right, if I were to tell the truth, or if I were to question and I said, hey, do you think that 95 number could go down to 39? If I would have said that 4 months ago, I possibly could have been banned. I possibly could have been censored. Most likely they would have flagged me. So do you see a common trend? We've become a authoritarian medical regime. All the doctors disagree. Well, there's thousands of doctors who don't. You just censor them. Luc Montagnier didn't disagree. When they were banning him last year, Luc Montagnier, by the way, if you look him up, he is a Nobel Prize winner in science. Why did he win a Nobel Prize? Luc Montagnier, according to them, discovered HIV. He's credited him and his team with discovering the HIV virus, and he won a Nobel Prize. He said last year, not me, this is a Nobel Prize winning scientist who, by the way, has one of the bigger discoveries in virology. It's not like there's a lot more bigger discoveries than that in the last 20, 30, 40 years. He's not a small fry. He's a big fry. He said that he thought it was a copy-paste virus. He saw parts of it that showed that it was lab created. That's what he said years ago. And they were trying to censor him. He's a conspiracy theorist. He's a nut. Maybe he is. But I'm just saying, it's like if you say what they're saying now a year before, they act like you're a psycho. It's not because they're right. It's not because they're all always correct. They have become authoritarians. They just don't want people to disagree. It's their agenda and their narrative over everything, even though I just showed you multiple things that they said were not actually accurate, including pretty much one of the most important things. Can you spread the virus or not? because if she was right, the CDC director months ago, and you can't spread the virus with COVID-19, that's huge. Maybe then you can reach herd immunity. If everybody gets it and nobody could spread it, we could reach herd immunity. And that's what they were kind of saying. I mean, they're not going to tell you this now, but that's what they were saying. We could reach herd immunity. This is like 95% effective. It's 39% effective. Herd immunity is a myth, and it's your fault. It's our fault. It's everyone's fault because your predictions were wrong. Your messages were wrong. Your immunity data was wrong. It's my fault. It's everyone's fault. It's Australia's fault. You got to lock down New Zealand. Really? These people are disgusting. All right, now we're going to look at the data out of Israel real quick. I love Israel. God bless my Israelis. It's interesting because so many people in the Republican Party, they're always like, I love Israel. I love Israel. And I'm like, they're like the gatekeepers of Israel. But then when it comes to defend Israel with all this COVID tyranny, all of a sudden those influencers are really quiet on Israel. Isn't it funny how they use Israel just for like a political advantage in America? And then all of a sudden, like Israel's having some issues and they're not reporting on it. But anyway, God bless you guys. I'm going to report on it. So this is the data out of Israel. This is August 22. So on August 22, 2021, that was yesterday, they had 55 deaths in Israel, okay, with the COVID-19 data. August 22, the same day in 2020, they had 10 deaths. So without the vaccine on the 22nd of August last year, they had 10 deaths. With the vaccine, they have a majority of their population vaccinated, around 60%. They have over 1 million people triple vaccinated. They now have a booster shot, and they still had 45 more deaths this August 22nd than last August 22nd, albeit they had way more cases. People could say the ratio is different and better. I'm just saying, if that's what success looks like, I would hate to see failure, as Alex Berenson says. All right, so let's go through some of this stuff because I want to show you. This is all mainstream sources. This is not me. This is not conspiracy theory. This is not Fox News. This is all mainstream liberal news sources admitting what I was trying to say months ago. But if I would have said it months ago, they would have censored me. But now that they're admitting it, it's like they're allowed to say it. So this is Business Insider. They said Israel has one of the world's highest daily COVID infection rates despite the vaccine uptake. This is NPR, my friends at NPR. Highly vaccinated Israel is seeing a dramatic surge in new COVID cases. Here's why. I'd love to hear their take on that. This is New York Times, the very trusted New York Times. They're always begging you to subscribe. You can't read any of their articles because they're like, please give me $1. Please give me $1. I'm like, no, I'd rather give $1 to like, the person who made my coffee in the morning. I'll save my money, but thanks for the offer. Anyway, this is New York Times. Israel, once the model for beating COVID, faces new surge of infections. So they're admitting we were kind of pitching them as like the model to beat COVID-19, and it's not really happening. It says one of the most vaccinated societies, Israel, now has one of the highest infection rates in the world, raising questions about the vaccine's efficacy. I didn't raise questions about it. The New York Times did. Even they're starting to question it. I was questioning it months ago, calmly, reasonably, with facts, but you're not allowed to be right in advance. They're just steamrolling, locking down, destroying business. They're like Tasmanian devils on society. Destroy your business, destroy your life. They're arresting people in Australia. They're locking everybody in their houses. Mental illness is going up. Drug abuse is going up. Suicides are going up. They're just allowed to destroy everybody, ruin everybody's life, hurt everybody's mental health, physical health. Wealth distribution's on an all-time high, and that's all you'll get. This is the time and time again story of these people. Oops, yeah, we made a mistake. Of course, we've made mistakes in the past. It's okay. Yeah, it's okay, but when you take our freedom away, it's not okay. So, once again, just to prove to you guys, this is the Israel vaccination data. This is right off Google, right off Haaretz, which is the Jewish publication out of Israel. It says fully vaccinated, there's over 5.4 million people in Israel. 60.1% of the population is fully vaccinated. Over 1.1 million people got booster shots. What I'm starting to ask the question, because I see people on Twitter and they're saying, I'm fully vaccinated. I'm against vaccine passports. And I'm like, I appreciate that. It's all love. Unvaccinated, vaccinated, we're all family. I don't discriminate. However, what does it mean to be fully vaccinated? How is there 60% of people fully vaccinated? And then there's 1.1 million people with the booster shot. When are they going to tell people who got 2 that they're not fully vaccinated until they get the 3rd one and 4th one? That's just a question. I'm not being sarcastic. I'm just curious. At what point did those 60.1% of people not become fully vaccinated because they're saying the booster shot is necessary? Are they going to make it necessary? Is it going to stay under the EUA? I'm not sure, but it is very fascinating to me. So that's just some intro to my discussion and story. Those are just all the times and all the narratives that have shifted left and right, back and forth. You can, you can't, you do, you don't. they've shifted so many times. As a citizen, I'm allowed to notice and report on it. Now I want to talk about something that is near and dear to my heart because I just find it fascinating. So this is CNBC. I've shared this article a lot. A lot of people don't know this, but some do and don't care. It's all love. It's CNBC. They said you can't sue Pfizer or Moderna if you have severe COVID vaccine side effects. The government likely won't compensate you for damages either. Mainstream thing. You could read all about it, the PrEP Act, etc. They're admitting, yeah, if something happens, like, the people who make the product are not going to pay for it, and it's going to be really tough to get money from government. You probably won't. Okay. People will say, well, that's really rare. And I agree, right? Myocarditis, it's confirmed by the CDC. Guillain-Barré syndrome, it's confirmed by the CDC. These are not conspiracy theories. These are rare side effects that don't happen very often, but they still do happen. It might be nothing to you, but to that family, it is something. And here's the crazy part. I see what people are saying where they're saying it's really rare. It's like, no, I agree. I'm not going to say it's like 1 in 5 or anything and lie to you. It is rare. However, you know what else is rare? Kids dying of COVID-19. But is that the message that you're getting in the news? Everybody's dying. It's like, well, first of all, the actual death rate is not that high, but also the kid death rate is even lower. So, you're fear mongering over a dozen, 2 dozen, 3 dozen kids, whatever that number may be in that area, etc. Yet, you're not allowed to opt out of a product that they know has side effects for a rare amount of people. How come you're allowed to fearmonger about something, but, and some things are not that rare. When it comes to overdoses in San Francisco, this comes out of ABC, and this really hurts my heart because we've had an overdose and a fentanyl and an opioid problem in this country for a long time. I mean, our life expectancy is actually going backwards. And even our health agencies in this country, if you read up on it, they admit it comes from suicide, overdoses with fentanyl and opioids. That's like a driving factor in why our life expectancy is going down. That's not good. That's a failed society. That's a sign of something that was getting better that's now getting worse. But this is ABC News. This breaks my heart. This is from December 2020. They said a record number 621 people died of drug overdoses in San Francisco so far this year, a staggering number that far outpaces the 173 deaths from COVID-19 the city's seen thus far. So ABC News admitted we've had way more drug overdoses than we've had COVID-19 deaths. Was the lockdown worth it? Do you guys not have a soul? Do you guys not think anymore? Do you guys not think about collateral damage? Do you just want to run around the world hurting people physically, mentally, psychologically, and act like you're saving the world like you're Batman? Have you guys lost your mind? Have you guys lost your soul? I really have to ask you because there's collateral damage to lockdowns, and one of those things is making people more depressed, putting people who are on drugs onto more drugs because they don't have anything to do. You're taking away their job. You're taking away their sport. You're taking away their social interactions. And it ended up killing more people in San Francisco than the virus did. That's real data. That's ABC News. That's a fact. I've been reporting on that since March. You're not going to see politicians talk about it on the news. Republicans won't talk about it. Democrats certainly won't talk about it. Nobody's talking about it because they're all just like a salesman for a product, which is nice. But what about this? So this idea that stuff is rare, no, there's a real collateral effect to hurting people in this psychotic way where you're treating everybody like crap, putting them in their house. Once again, before we move on, overdose deaths in San Francisco as of December 2020 was at 621 people died of a drug overdose, only 173 deaths from COVID at the time of this article, which is December 19th. And nobody talks about it. And they act like that's some sort of conspiracy theory. It's ABC News. Look at that, folks. You saw how much data I had. I'm not even done. I have like 20 more pages. Thank you for being here. Thanks for staying tuned. I came prepared today. I'm exhausted just from doing all this research. So this comes from FDA.gov. It's right off the FDA.gov website. I said, how many FDA-approved drugs are there? So it says there's over 20,000 prescription drug products approved for marketing. The FDA oversees 6,500 different medical device product categories. There are over 1,600 FDA-approved drug products. There are about 300 FDA-licensed biologics products. So there are 20,000 plus products that are approved by the FDA. That's epic. God bless you, FDA. You're crushing, approving. That's what you do. That's not what I do. I don't need 20,000 products. I don't need 20,000 pills. I certainly don't need the animal products. But in general, just because something's FDA approved does not mean you could force it into my arm or throat, or you maybe think you can, but I don't take pills. I mean, I know some people who do, they have heart, this, that. That's all love. Like I'm not a doctor. I don't tell people what to do, but I have my own health regimen. I have my own fitness regimen. I have my own diet regimen, and I will not be told by the government or the corporate class what I can and can't take. It's ridiculous. So I'm glad you got this product approved, and so is Pfizer. Trust me. But okay. So let's move on. This is Yukon. Because I start, and I'm going to be fair about this. If there's any Facebook censors watching, waiting, lurking in the corner, I'm going to be very objective about this. This is Yukon. Yukon wrote in May 21st, 2021, they wrote, why is the FDA funded in part by the companies it regulates? Nearly half of the agency's budget now comes from user fees paid by companies seeking approval for medical devices or drugs. And this is from 2018. And I have a little note here. See, that's how much work I do. I'm even writing over it. But Forbes, and this is, by the way, for the Facebook censors and stuff watching, this is from John LaMattina. He was the president of research and development of Pfizer Global Research in 2007, where he managed more than 13,000 scientists and support professionals in USA, Europe, and Asia. So this is not like a conspiracy article. This was written by the former president of research and development at Pfizer Global Research. He said, the biopharmaceutical industry in 2018, he said, provides 75% of the FDA's drug review budget. Is this a problem? I'm going to read that again. This is the ex-head of Pfizer Global Development, John LaMattina. The biopharmaceutical industry provides 75% of the FDA's drug review budget. Is this a problem? It's a great article. If you could read it, I was going to share it on Facebook, but I was like, are they going to get mad? Not that I cared, but I was like, I'll just do it in a live stream. So he wrote a very fair article as somebody who used to work at Pfizer, pretty much saying it's not really the pharmaceutical industry's fault per se, because it was a Congress thing they passed in the 1990s. But ever since then, they're trying to compete with other countries. They pretty much made it so a majority of their funding for certain things came from the companies themselves, which even he, as somebody who worked at Pfizer, was raising ethical questions in his head. Is that a good idea? What if other industries were pretty much, pushing the bill for the agencies that approve their products? But he came to the conclusion that, it was not that bad. He worked at Pfizer, so he'll say that. But in general, it's a great article. I think he shows both sides of it, and I think it's extremely fair from someone who knows way more about that industry than me. So read that article if you can. Forbes, the biopharmaceutical industry provides 75% of the FDA's drug review budget. Is that a problem? And it was written by the ex-president of research and development by Pfizer Global Research. It's good to know there's still people doing real journalism. He actually wrote a great article. Now I'm going to move on to other stuff. This is the New York Times, just so you guys know. This is not Fox News. This ain't Breitbart. This ain't InfoWars or whatever you guys want. This is New York Times. They wrote this in 2018, I believe. It says, what foods are banned in Europe but not banned in the US? The European Union prohibits many food additives and various drugs that are widely used in American foods. So if you've ever talked to anybody from other countries, I'm American bred. I don't travel out of the country that much. I love this country. I travel all over. But I'm not really, as much as I look like I'm well traveled. I haven't been to Europe. I haven't been to Asia. I would love to, but they've kind of ruined the world with this whole lockdown mass testing scheme. But anyway, if you talk to people from Australia, if you talk to people from Syria, if you talk to people from Europe, one thing that they always say to me is the food in America is disgusting. I know a guy who's locked down in Australia, and he literally says, I'd rather be here even though I'm in lockdown, because I will not go back to America because the food is so disgusting. Like, we don't have a very high standard for our food. We have a very low standard for our food. And what does it say about the administrations and the agencies that run our health departments if they're not making sure that our stuff is as healthy as other countries? It means, I'm not sure that they care about us as much as people think. We are 5% of the world, according to a 2016 CNBC article. 5% of the world's population's taking 80%, I believe was the number, 80% of the world's opioids. We're like the pharma capital of the world. We're the degenerate, just pump up the animals and feed people the shit food of the world. We treat, as great of a country as we are, God bless America, we treat our citizens like shit and cattle, and we just fill them up with what it's like. I'm sorry, but we can question these agencies a little bit because they're not even feeding us as good as foods as Europe. So this is from that New York Times article, December 28, 2018. It says, question, what foods are banned in Europe but are not banned in the United States, and what are the implications of eating those foods? So she said, the European Union prohibits or severely restricts many food additives that have been linked to cancer that are still used in American-made bread, cookies, soft drink, and other processed foods. Europe also bars the use of several drugs that are used in farm animals in the United States, and many European countries limit the cultivation and import of genetically modified products. So if you listen to Bill Nye, he's like Mr. GMO, Bill Nye the science guy. He's like, you got to like it. It's just a conspiracy theory. It's like, bro, in Europe, they don't do this as much. It's not a conspiracy theory. It's like a choice of what you think is ethical or healthier for you. But it's like, they try so hard in America to push this propaganda, like all this stuff we do is amazing and it's just a kooky conspiracy. It's like, go anywhere else in the world and they don't do this shit to their people. So I'm going to read some of the stuff that's banned in other countries, but is not from our FDA in our foods. Potassium bromate and azodicarbonate, I don't even know how to say that, ADA. These additives are completely added in baked goods, but neither is required, and both are banned in Europe because they may cause cancer. In recent years, some American restaurant chains have responded to the consumer pressure and removed them from the food. Potassium bromate is often used in flour, used in bread, rolls, cookies, buns, pastry dough, pizza dough, and other items that make the dough rise higher and give it a white glow. The International Agency of Research of Cancer shows it's a possible human carcinogen. I don't even need to go on. You get the gist of that. So it's pretty much banned all over Europe, but apparently it's okay for us. Both BHA and BHT are banned from foods in Australia, Canada, New Zealand, Japan, and throughout Europe. In the US, it's used to enhance texture of soft white breads, including hamburger buns. McDonald's and Burger King says Livestrong. I don't know if they've changed that policy since then, but also the New York Times article says BHA and BHT, the flavor enhancers and preservatives BHA and BHT, are subject to severe restrictions in Europe, but are widely used in American food products. While the evidence is mixed on BHT, BHA is listed in the United States government report on carcinogens as reasonably anticipated to be a human carcinogen. So that despite the fact that even our own government knows it's a reasonably anticipated to be a human carcinogen, apparently it's still approved in our foods. That's how much they give a shit about us. Yellow food dyes, number 5, number 6, and red dye, number 40. These dyes can be used in food sold in Europe, but the products must carry a warning saying the coloring agents may have an adverse effect on activity and attention in children. No such warning is required in the United States. Let's move on. Farm animal drugs. This is a really key one. The European Union also banned some farm animal drugs that are used on farm animals in the United States, citing health concerns. These drugs include bovine growth hormone, which the United States dairy industry uses to increase milk production. The European Union also does not allow the drug ractopamine, used in the United States to increase the weight gain in pigs, cattle, turkeys before slaughter, saying that risks to human health cannot be ruled out. An FDA spokeswoman said the drugs are safe. So all over Europe, they're like, let's not pump up all these animals, genetically, like modifying them or whatever they're doing. And we're just like, hell yeah, let's just keep doing that. And now let's go to the FDA, because the woman, this is actually Chris Guy out of Canada, made a video about this. So I was like, is he telling the truth? Not that I think he's a liar. I do think he's a truth teller, but I was like, I research everything. I don't just hear it. So I did the research and he was totally right. He was talking about Janet Woodcock. She's the FDA person that's, at the head of this thing for the most part. She's, big position at the FDA. There's a few articles about it. It says FDA did not intervene to curb risky fentanyl prescriptions, New York Times. So, that whole fentanyl, the whole opioid epidemic that's going on, there's been multiple big drug companies. I mean, I think Pfizer, Johnson & Johnson, Purdue Pharmaceuticals. I mean, if you do the research on these, all of them have been involved in stuff over some of their drugs, and she was involved in that. This is USA Today. I'm just going to read this article. Janet Woodcock's failure at the FDA in the opioid epidemic. So earlier this year, 2021, USA Today said that she had a big failure at the opioid epidemic, which is obviously crushing our country, crushing our youth. And I'm just going to read some of that article before we move on. Almost done, folks. Thanks for sticking with me. It said the possibility that she could be nominated as the permanent commissioner. I don't know that she will be. I was reading, it won't go through, but she is involved in this approval. Has sparked a firestorm among anti-opioid advocacy groups and victims of the opioid crisis. They charge that she was a central figure responsible for the FDA's failure over a quarter century to adequately control the opioid epidemic. Dr. Andrew Kolonsky, a senior scientist and medical advisor, told me exaggeration to say that she presided over and then it goes on to explain the failure. I'm just going to read a little bit more. It says in 2018, it gave the controversial Dysuvia, I don't even know how to say this, sufentanil pill, 10 times more powerful than fentanyl. This was despite the strong objection from Dr. Radford Brown, an anesthesiologist, who chaired the opioid advisory committee. Brown later told The Guardian there was a war inside the FDA between those officials who had failed to learn their lessons about the deadly epidemic and those who had. In an unusual blunt assessment, Brown said the FDA has learned nothing. The lack of insight that continues to be exhibited by the agency is in many ways a willful blindness that borders on the criminal. So that's just not a nobody. He chaired the Opioid Advisory Committee, saying what they're doing is borderline criminal, not learning their lesson about all this other stuff. And you look at Johnson & Johnson just settled out a multi-billion-dollar lawsuit. Pfizer settled out something over Bextra one time. You had Purdue Pharmaceuticals. It's like, this is not the most ethical community that's had 100% success. And that's not to say there's not some good products on the market, but this idea, I've seen all their failures. I've read about the Bayer pill that they sent overseas. I've heard it all. I've seen it all. I've seen every lawsuit. I've seen every oops, my bad. I've seen the opioid crisis. I've seen the fentanyl crisis. I've seen the fact that our politicians don't care. I've seen how selfish some of these come. Well, as long as we're making money, it's like, yeah, I'm sure there's a lot of great products. I'm sure everyone's going to be fine. Me personally, just because it's approved like 20,000 other drugs, doesn't mean I have to get it. At least I hope so. Or else I'll go live in the woods before I comply to these medical tyrants. But you get the gist of it. They also talk about Oxycontin, which has hurt a lot of people as well. You know, they call her in this article, the USA Today, Janet Woodcock, referred as the top drug cop who had been in charge of CEDR for only a year in 1995 when the FDA considered approving Oxycontin sale to the public. They talk about all this stuff, how they could have labeled it better to save lives, but read those articles. This is the rest. I'm going to go into the Larry Elder stuff in a little bit. So those are my 20 to 30 articles for my reasoning for, okay, that's great that it's approved. I understand Operation Warp Speed was a huge success for Moderna, for Pfizer, for anybody who wanted to get it. They have billions of dollars. They've made billions of dollars. They've put out the most aggressive advertising campaign in pharmaceutical history. There has never been and probably will never be more of an aggressive campaign, because it wasn't just a multi-billion-dollar campaign of advertisements everywhere all the time ever. It also included holding people for ransom, telling them they couldn't work as a cop, a military member, a lifeguard, a nurse. I mean, they're threatening people, telling them that they're not going to be able to sit indoors, eat, make an income. I mean, this is the craziest advertising rollout bonanza for a pharmacy product ever. So when I watch people like Mike Pence and Donald Trump, I know I get a lot of heat from this. Joe Biden, I could go to both parties. I'm not saying either of them's doing it, but you know, Mike Pence on Twitter today, he's like, oh, it's such a success, Operation Warp Speed, we're FDA approved. It's like, has Mike Pence weighed in on the vaccine passport? Has Mike Pence weighed in on the millions of people who voted for Trump and his administration that are like looking for leadership and they don't seem to really talk that much about, you know? You heard Alabama kind of tell Trump, like, dude, we know you did it. We know you want us to get, we know everybody wants us to get it. At this point, for the most part, people who wanted it got it. People who don't want it didn't get it. And most of the people getting it from this point on are not going to do it because they want to. They're going to do it because they're afraid of losing their income, access to their family, access to travel. And millions of people in this country can't work. They're being told by their employer, you can't work, you can't eat at a restaurant if you don't get this job. So it's not an advertising campaign. It's a hold for ransom, forcing on the public campaign. And I'm so glad, you know, for the FDA and for these companies that they got their product approved, but they got to calm down. And it doesn't mean that everyone has to get it. There's 20,000 plus prescription things approved. It doesn't mean everybody has to take them all the time. Our country is too obese. Our country has diabetes, cancer. Our country has a problem with opioid. Our country has a problem with mental health, suicides. We got a lot of issues in this country. And a lot of the reason that we have these issues is because we don't go back to common sense anymore. I said from March, I understand drugs and vaccines, but if we mandated jumping jacks instead of mandated lockdowns, you probably could have saved more lives. And I guarantee you so many people wouldn't have killed themselves in San Francisco and all over the world from depression, because you guys are depressing as hell. I never hear them talk about drinking water. I never hear them talk about eating healthier. I know they don't care as much as Europe does about their people because of what they put in the food. I could see all this stuff. I haven't ever told them to get a good walk and go outside and have a good day. In Australia, you can't even go outside for a walk. So they're literally abusing their people with this authoritarian regime, like straight up mentally and psychologically abusing the shit out of people in a way that it should be a bigger conversation than Afghanistan. So we get it. We get the gist. These people are out of control psychopaths. And regardless of how great they think their product is or not, or how many times they change the topic of how effective it is or not, or the booster shot, it's all good with me with your data. You know, keep doing what you're doing, but leave us the hell alone. And this is a warning to everybody everywhere, regardless of whether you got it or not. I don't discriminate. I don't judge. And I pray for the best for anybody either way, regardless of if you're 90 or you're, 25, and whether you got it or not. It's all love for me. I'm sure you're going to be fantastic. And I pray for you either way. But here's the thing. It's bigger than just this thing. Regardless of what you think of this thing, if people give up the precedent of lockdowns, if people give up the precedence of mass testing, if people give up the precedent of, well, there's this many cases, so that means the government can do this, this may never end. As far as the cases and stuff, with they're counting this much with the PCR test, there's a chance that herd immunity is now mythical, they say. So what's going to stop them for doing this forever? They're going to do this forever. It's when it's really up to the people. When enough people say they've had enough, take care of yourself, wash your hands, definitely be clean. Don't be disgusting. Don't be a degenerate. Don't spit all over people. But for the most part, keep your mind strong, keep your spirit strong. Try to keep your body as physically strong as you can, and definitely keep your spirits up. These have real world implications. I never hear Rochelle Walensky talk about fear. All they do, she said, impending doom. Do I need to Google what does fear do to your body? Look what fear does to your body. Google how does fear negatively affect the body. There's all mainstream science articles telling you how bad fear is for your body. Does this lady give a crap? Does she give a shit at all? Impending doom, impending doom. What do you think that does to billions of people? You're the leader. You're supposed to be calm, and we have it all under the control. I'm sorry, but these experts and these bureaucrats, it couldn't be more obvious, whether you're liberal, conservative, whether you're a cop, whether you work in the government, or whether you work at CVS or ShopRite. It couldn't be more clear that these people don't give a shit about us. These people are so drunk on power, drunk on profits, drunk on control, drunk on, micromanaging everybody, and it's disgusting. So whether you got this thing or not, whether you test 5 times a week or never, understand the more you play along, the more they do this stuff. And it's going to take people, black, white, liberal, conservative, vaccinated, unvaccinated, coming together and saying enough is enough. If you don't draw a line in the sand, these people are in no rush to give you any of the freedoms you once had back in 2019. So that's my take on it. God bless you guys for listening. And I put in work today. I had a lot of articles. All right. So the next thing I want to talk about is I've come to the conclusion. I'm pretty much, sold on it. I'm voting for Larry Elder. That might be shocking to some people because people probably thought I didn't like him or something. I made a few videos where I said his rhetoric on his website was super weak because it was. He said, if you're wearing a mask, so will I. If you have a restaurant, so I'm like, dude, I don't want to hear that right now. I complained about it. I made a video about it. I got about 100,000 views on Facebook, a couple 100,000 views on Instagram. It got huge. I'm not bragging, but when I do something, we move the needle and the people flock because it's real, because, real people understand real things and we move as a unit. With that being said, Larry Elder responded within 48 hours, 24 hours. I mean, he didn't change his website, which is annoying, but he made it clear that he was against vaccine passports and mask mandates. And the fact, I know a lot of people might not know this about me. I'm not a hater. I'm paying attention. That's why I talk to Trump so much. I don't yell at Trump because I hate Trump and I'm a Democrat. I know Trump listens to the streets. Trump's got his ear to the block. The block's hot. Don Jr. knows what's good. Look at Don Jr.'s Rumble channel. Don Jr. shares like the same views as I do about all this stuff. It's just I'm trying to get to Daddy Trump, Grandpa Moderna. Mike, I'm trying to get to them. So when I talk about people, don't think I'm a hater. I'm just trying to use my voice as a citizen to speak up. And I took note that Larry Elder listened and actually responded. I still wasn't sold until I watched this interview. It's going viral on YouTube because he really had like a Jordan Peterson-like moment. And I know Larry Elder's already a big legend, but like he destroyed the Sacramento Bee, the entire staff. If you watch nothing today, go watch this Sacramento Bee Larry Elder interview. It's like 40 minutes long. If you don't have the time, I understand. But the Sacramento Bee, I'm guessing, is a super liberal organization. And they pretty much threw the whole team at Larry Elder. They had the journalist, the editor, the vice editor. They had like 10 people, right? They're asking him all these questions, just treating him terribly. I mean, okay, but just like slimy liberal journalists. And Larry Elder, it was like, and you know me, I'm not easily impressed, but it was like Larry Elder took on 10 people and just destroyed them. Okay. He just obliterated them on every single topic. And I want to say this, it was interesting. They were trying to get him on a topic, and I'll talk about his stances too, but they were trying to get him on a topic saying, well, Larry, you work for the Epic Times, and do you know about their connection to these people? And he sounded very passionate. He said, I grew up in South Central, and he did all this stuff. He wrote a bunch of articles. He did a bunch of books, etc. And they never published a single thing. And you could feel like the passion. You could feel like the sadness in his heart, because this is a kid who born and raised in LA, and they've never published an article about this guy. Yet they write these crazy articles. This was within 24 hours. It says Larry Elder is the black face of white supremacy. You've been warned. They're calling Larry Elder the black face of white supremacy. These are just 4 articles from the LA Times. Recall candidate Larry Elder's a threat to black Californians. Too bad you can't believe anything Larry Elder says. Larry Elder draws fire for the N-word comedy clip. If Larry Elder's elected, life will get harder for millions of Californians. He's born in LA, and his own local newspaper has never covered him and literally writes like dozens of articles just shitting on him. I mean, it's kind of sad. You could feel it in his voice where he's like, isn't that crazy? Of all this stuff I've done, they've never once covered anything I've done or let me have an op-ed. I mean, it's not, these people are wicked, these liberals. And if you listen to it, it's crazy. But he's made it clear he's against mask mandates and passports. He's made that very clear. He said it on his Twitter multiple times. He said it in front of a group. That's my number one issue. It really is. I don't want the passports. I don't want the mask mandates. I want somebody who's going to fight medical tyranny. And I see the fact that Larry Elder actually listens. Also, this is a recall election. As far as who's going to get the votes, I've talked to Sarah Stevens. She's super nice. I've talked to Anthony Trimino. Seems like a nice guy. I've never talked to Kevin Kiley. I appreciate Kevin Kiley, right? He's one of the people in the recall. He's the reason the recall is there. I respect the guy. I've talked to a bunch of the candidates that are nice, but Larry Elder's a clear front runner. And also, I'm not trying to be rude because I like everybody. I've met everybody. But I never had this moment where I was super sold on anybody. Not Larry Elder. Not, I was like, nah, like, I'm not trying to be rude, but I'm like, no, I agree with you. But like, that star power that, all right, this person could win. This person could really do something. And when I listened to the Larry Elder interview, I gave him my 40 minutes. I've had my critiques of him. I listened to him talk. I'm like, that boy can talk. And I could feel it I could feel it where he was like, I'm going to try to really do this. And I'm like, I believe him. Do I think he's perfect? No. Do I think he's going to agree with me on anything? No. Do I think he could end up like all the other politicians? For sure. I don't have these grandiose expectations, but if he can get in office and he could roll back the vaccine passports and he could roll back the mask mandates and he could try to do something about homelessness, I truly believe that he's going to. I could feel it in his voice. He's not going to say angry, but he sliced and diced these liberals. And you know me, multiple people have tried to get me to endorse people. This is not even my endorsement of him. I'm just telling you, this is why I'm voting for him. I'm not endorsing him, but I'm voting for him because I watched what he did to those 10 liberals, how he explained himself, how he stood firm to pretty much a lot of the stuff I agree. And just, I don't think there's many people in politics who could do that. And I know there's people who like other candidates, but I'm just going to say, as far as an orator and a debater, I think Larry Elder's up here and the other candidates are down there. As far as policies and issues, I'm sure there's a few things that me and Larry disagree on, but I think he's a massive front runner. I think he could really win. And, I think he has a chance to be the next governor. As far as a lot of other people, 2%, 3%, 4%, 5%, I don't think they're going to get that many votes. And I would be willing to vote for someone else that wouldn't get a lot of votes if I was drawn to them. Like, holy crap, they're crushing it. But the person in my eyes that really crushed it was Larry in that Sacramento Bee. I mean, it's got almost 2 million views for a reason. He murked them on the level of like Jordan Peterson destroying 3 feminists. It goes viral because he's just destroying them. Like, he really went hard. And I think they're calling him a white supremacist or whatever, even though he's black, because he understands that the best thing for the black community is not victim mentality. The best thing for the black community is not, doing what the liberals did. He talked about policing. He really understands that issue probably more than anybody. He's been on it for 30, 40 years. And I'm willing to give Larry a shot. I think he was born and raised in LA, especially South Central, but in general, he's been here his whole life. He's in his 60s or 70s. I don't know, but I'm going to vote for him. It's not an endorsement. I'm not endorsing him. I wasn't paid. No one asked me. Honestly, people asked me to endorse other candidates, but I do what I want. And I've just come to the conclusion that that would be huge if they could roll back the mask and vaccine mandates in this state. That's huge. That was my main issue. I called him out on it. He responded. He's been going hard at it. He seems like he understands that people care about that. And that's what it is. That's all you can really ask for in a politician. I'm not asking for the world. I don't expect him to wipe my butt or anything. But if he could try to take a jab at homelessness, if he could take out the mask mandates, and if he could stand up for the police, not the bad police, but the good police in like high crime areas and stop doing all this liberal nonsense, I would love to see Larry Elder take on the media, because I got this type of vibe. Like, it's not easy to run for politics. It's not easy to be in the limelight. It's not easy to do anything. But I'm telling you, to me, and don't get mad at me, but his ability to really, battle the media when they're going to come at him if he does win is high level. He's a really good talker. And it didn't sound to me like, he does sound like a politician sometimes, but it didn't sound to me like he was politicking. He's very passionate about what to do with the Black community. He's very passionate about homelessness. He's very passionate about California, and he was very passionate about defending himself. And I could feel it. I have good intuition. So I'm not saying he's the greatest person I've ever met in my life. I'm sure people don't like him or certain policies, but that's how I feel. And I just want to show you that when I go at somebody, it's not a personal thing. It's not oh my God, I hate that person. Anomaly's a shill. I want to see if they're not standing up on the most important issue in the world. I want to see if they're willing to do it or they're going to flop. If he would have never addressed it, I'd say, no, I'm not voting for him. But that's how I feel. God bless you guys. And I wish Larry the best. Seriously, I would love to see him take office in front of Gavin Newsom. The media would melt down. Our state, I mean, the mandates are just number one. They're trying to mandate nurses right now. A lot of nurses are holding the line. They're trying to put masks on the children. This is evil stuff. So Larry's a front runner. He's probably going to get 20, 30, 40% of the vote, I think, but we'll see. I think he has a real shot. And regardless of what you do, even if you disagree with me, if you vote for Kevin Kiley, Trimino, any of these other candidates, just make Kevin, what I already said, Kevin Kiley, just make sure you vote yes. That's the most important thing. If you vote yes on the recall, 51%, that's all it takes. If 51% want Gavin Newsom gone, he's gone. It could be Kevin Paffrath. It could be Larry Elder. It could be Kevin Kiley. Any of those would be better than Gavin Newsom. So just make sure you vote yes. All right. Someone said I've listened to him for years. He's a good guy. I know a lot of people were mad when I called him out because apparently he's been on the radio for a while and he's like a legend. And you know what? I'm a tough critic. I'm a tough critic of myself. I think that's why my content's like, I try to raise the bar. I'm not easily impressed. I'm really not. I sound like a hater to myself sometimes too, but it's just, I'm a good reader too. I like to, I see star power. I'm like, that person's a star. It's not like, I would love to just sit in an office somewhere and just like, be like a talent manager and just pick out, be like, that person's awesome. That I could see talent. Larry's already at the level he's at for a reason, but it's like when he went off on that interview, I finally saw it. I haven't seen it. I've heard him talk. It was good. That interview was, to me, powerful. And it definitely swayed my opinion. But let me know what you guys think. Someone says the guy who voted for Trump and then trashes him 10 months later. Great intuition. Trish, you're not listening to me. I'm not trashing him. I'm a pragmatic person. In this election, I'm pragmatic. I'm voting for Larry. In the last election, I'm not going to vote for Joe Biden. Joe Biden is clearly the worst candidate. So I don't have a million choices. I have two choices. I voted for Trump and I stand by my vote. But this is the difference between me and you, Trish. Stop being rude to me. I'm not a fan. I'm not a cheerleader. So if Donald Trump is absent on the biggest issue in the world and he's just spouting off about how glad he is that he rushed the jab, it's like, cool, I get it, dude. But if you're not on this topic, like 95% of Trump supporters agree with me. And the ones who don't just like foam at the mouth and get mad. This isn't a sports game. I did the same thing with Larry Elder. I'm voting for him. I don't just sit and hold his hand. I'm like, you're the governor. You better not drop the ball. So it's the same thing with Trump. I've already explained myself 100 times. I'm not living in Groundhog Day with people who foam at the mouth because they have like, they think in binaries, like everything's black or everything's white, everything's left or everything's right. It's like, I have my views. I stand by my decision to vote for Trump. I don't regret it for a second. There's nothing Biden can do for me. I would rather Trump in the White House. That being said, I said what Alabama said. I dare you to go to an Alabama Trump rally and talk shit to all those people in Alabama because they booed him for the same thing that I said. They booed him. That's his biggest supporters in probably one of the most pro-Trump states had no problem telling him we're tired of this. That's healthy. Okay. What you're doing, stop trying to bully me. I'm tired of people trying to bully me because they don't get it. Listen, you're a fool because you don't listen. If you stop talking and stop foaming at the mouth and you listen, maybe you learn something, Trish, because I'm not trying to brag, but I doubt you could do 1/1000th of what I just did with those 50 articles. You could never do that, Trish. So if you want to join the party and be part of the team and the family and interact and have discussions, we can do it. But if you're going to foam at the mouth after a fantastic live stream because you're a fool, maybe it's time to zip the lips or unfollow if you can't shut your mouth. So God bless you guys. But Thank you, Nick. I appreciate it. Let's see. What's up, Dan? What's up, Joe? Someone said Owen Schroyer got released today. I've heard that. I heard he got arrested or released or he was in custody, but last I heard he was released. That's what Jack Posebic said. I'm reading the comments. Andrea said yes, Larry Elder. I think he could really win. Biden got down on one knee. Was he praying to Satan or something? I didn't see I didn't see the thing. What are we at? 49 minutes. All right, let's keep it under an hour. That was pretty informative. That was pretty good. I'm keeping this under an hour. So let's get it in. I'll read a few comments. Let me try to get the super chats on Facebook, but I'm keeping this under an hour. It was clean. It was nice. I'm not going to let people throw me off like every day. I come to the game just ready. I'm not even talking about Trump, and somebody just always has something rude to say. It's like the biggest fools always have the biggest mouths. Sometimes it's silencio. William said, can you send me a copy of the one broadcast? I've been saying the say no one believes me. I'm not sure what you're talking about, Will. Someone said the HIV link, including the doctors. Thank you. What you doing, Amelie? I'm not sure what you're saying, Bernadette, but I'll look into it. Rochelle said empty my stars account. Thank you, Rochelle. Thank you to everybody else who sent them. I see them. I appreciate them. Tyler said mad support, good stream. Thank you, Tyler. It's good to focus on the positive because 90% of people get it, but the 10% who don't are like crap. I used to call people low energy crabs. If you watched me last year, I used to say it all the time. It's like crabs in a bucket. Like I'm out here trying to live, and people are like, and they're just like these crabs. Like, but anomaly, you took it out of context. I didn't take it out of context. I played 2.5 minutes of an interview. You just don't. It's like, come on, folks. Let's simmer down. Like a soup that's ready to eat. Let's simmer down. Delta Charlie. Delta Charlie. Everybody hide for cover. He's got the Delta. No, I'm just kidding. His name's Delta Charlie, though. He said, man, almost every thought and angle you're conveying is literally 99.99% of my perspective and thoughts. Thank you for your hard work, brother. Thank you, Delta Charlie. You sound like a smart guy. But I'm biased. Eric said, great content. Thank you for the research. Thank you, Eric. Thank you, ZM. No problem. I love what I do. I love it. I'm blessed. I'm grateful. Oh, I remember. Here, we'll do a positive thing before Tris says something rude again. But I'm wearing this shirt. All right, it says "God Save America," right? That's what the shirt says. It's a Kanye campaign when he ran for president. He had these shirts that "God Save America." So I got a message from his shoe designer. His name is Steven Smith, a really cool guy. He makes the Yeezys. He's like the brain behind the huge brand of shoes and like the style. So he messaged me. He likes my streams, and he said, Anomaly, I'd love to send you a shirt that we have from Kanye's campaign that says God Save America. And I was like, hell yeah. So I gave him my P.O. box, whatever. He sent me the shirt. It came straight from Kanye's campaign. And I haven't worn it yet. I thought it was too big, but it's not. It's like perfect size. So I haven't worn it, and I wore it today for the first time. And these two wonderful ladies said, we love your shirt. And I was like, thank you. And as I was walking away, it sparked a conversation because they were Christians and it says God on it. So we talked for an hour. It was a great conversation. But it's interesting. And this is not a hat sale, but obviously I have the God bless hats. The reason I put God here, and it's interesting, Kanye has God Save America, and I put God bless. I was thinking when I was launching a merch design, I was like, what should I do? I don't know what to do. Should I put my name? Should I put Rare, Dream Rare? And I thought of God bless. And I was so excited when I thought of it because I'm all about energy. I don't like to wear your clothes also elicit a certain type of energy. So if you're wearing something inflammatory, it's like people are going to get mad. Sometimes it's funny. Sometimes it's funny to wear something, people are going to disagree. But I was like, I don't like that. I want something that will elicit good attention. So when I came up with God bless, I was like, oh, this is good. And so many people have told me the same thing that happened to me today, wearing God on your hat or your shirt. People that love God will compliment it and be like, oh, just like I would. If you walked, even if it wasn't my design, if I saw this shirt, I would probably be like, I love that shirt. So it's like good energy clothing, good energy hats. It's just, it's happened to me so many times with my hat, and with this shirt, it happened too. And I've got a lot of messages of people who are like, dude, I got in so many good combos where it's like, it's the same when people think I'm a hater, but if I see a Trump hat or something, I don't get mad at the person. I usually say something like, I like your hat. If I see a Trump hat, an American flag, anything like conservative, I saw some guy said like CNN sucks or something when I was in Colorado. He had some like shirt shitting on CNN. And I always compliment. I'm like, I like that shirt. So, your clothes can speak sometimes, but when you wear God on your clothes, godly people usually reach out. It was a good time today though. Someone said, I got my appeal to heaven flag and hat, got them flying in the front of the house. Nice. I love a good American flag too. Like if people have American flags outside their house or American flags, it's nice to see that nowadays. I'd much rather, and I don't hate on anybody regardless, but I'd much rather see an American flag out of someone's house than like that thing. It's like science is science, God's not real, Black Lives Matter, science is climate change, and you're like that you ever seen that virtue signal thing that liberals put in their lawn? I would never hate on them. They're still your neighbor. Hopefully they're nice people. But when I see those, I just cringe. I'm like, But when I see an American flag, I'm like, that person. But and it's the opposite. It's sad when they see an American flag or like a Trump hat, they're like, ugh. And then when they see that, they're like, Black Lives Matter, yee. And they're like, yeah, we get it, yeah, of course. But it's like, I don't know. This is my thought. Appreciate you guys. Thank you. Hold on, let me just say thank you, Patty. I appreciate it. I'm not gonna let the rotten egg spoil the bunch, and I've come to the conclusion. Most people agree with me, but it's so frustrating because I like to have discussions and debates, but people keep making the same bad arguments over and over and over and the same like illogical. I said this the other day, but there's three things that happen from Democrats, from Trump supporters, and from people that are like into the Q stuff. There's good people all over the place. Don't get me wrong. I'm just saying, like, if you disagree with a Democrat, what did they do over the last 5 years? Are you a Russian agent? Do you work for Russia? Are you a Russian bot? I got called a Russian bot 6 times. Literally, they I've never even been to Russia. I'm not even Russian descent. But if I was, it's like, you're allowed to be Russian. You're allowed to go to Russia. In general, I'm not Russian. I have nothing, but you're a Russian bot. Are you a racist? Are you a sexist? Like, you're like, no, like that's what they do when they can't debate you. The left will call you a racist, a sexist, a xenophobe, or a Russian bot. In the Trump world, when I say something that Trump supporters aren't ready to hear, even though I voted for him, I get called China. They're like, are you working for China? Can you point to anything pro-China that I've put out? Have I put out anything pro-China ever, or anything that goes in the favor of China? Like, what? It doesn't even make sense. But people who can't debate what you're saying, they have to smear your character. This is what people are doing to me now because of the last Trump video. You must work for China. No. You must be a Democrat. No. You must be a Biden voter. No. You must be a Bernie voter. You're a secret Bernie agent who, it's like, you're not listening to what I'm saying, so you're trying to smear my character. The right's doing it to me. And the funny thing is the Q people call everybody a shill or a Mossad agent, which is like an Israel CIA type thing, is Mossad. But people are like, you're Mossad. Like, if I had a list of like, okay, I've been called a Russian bot 50 times. I've been called far right or something, like probably not that many times, but whatever. I've been called, I don't know how many, I don't think I've been called racist that many times, but the left has probably said it a few times. And then you go to the right, how many, I've been called a Chinese something like 4 times. I've been called a Mossad like 8 times. I should have a list of like false smears when people, but that's just what you do when you can't debate the content of the argument, debate that. It's like people's head explodes when they hear something they don't want to hear, and they immediately try to character assassinate you. It's really creepy, but I get the dynamic of it, but people need to think. Someone said Chinomaly. It's so stupid, but it's all good. Someone said, I don't understand how you even get hate. Well, my last video is a little bit aggressive, I guess, but I got really good responses. I have to say, like, I'm going to end on a positive note. There were some really nasty people. And that's just life. But 90% of people, I got so many messages from like people wearing cowboy hats in the South saying, man, I didn't want to hear that, but I'm glad I did. Like, it was overwhelmingly love. It's overwhelmingly great. And everyone's going to have an opinion. I've already watched NPR call me a conspiracy theorist. I've watched high-level political people say I need to be off Facebook. I've seen it all from the left. I've seen it from the right. It doesn't really faze me that much, but it's disappointing, I think, when it's like your side or whatever, but I'm not shocked. It just is a little disappointing sometimes, but overall, it's mostly love. Most people get it, and that's what it's about. You can't please everybody, and people have been programmed with politics to get so emotional and angry over like a political take, and it gets personal. Like I said, if someone said anomaly, I don't agree with you. Here's why. I had multiple discussions. I had people on my Instagram live to discuss. If you try to publish my personal information or say something that's false about me and like accusations because you're mad at me, I'm like, that's just so low level. But God save America. I believe in God. So, God blesses those who bless him, etc. And people who are wicked like that, it's like it all comes back. So my goal is just be the best version that I could be. I'm ending this live stream now. God bless you guys. I want to keep it under an hour. It looks nice, and hopefully you enjoyed that. And share it if you like. Check out the Canada video. If not, don't share. Have a good day though. I'll be back soon.